everyone. In today's episode of TrendTalk, we have a very creative powerhouse with us. We have Alana Bemmann. Today, we have Alana Bemmann, the creative force behind Cosmopolitan Academy. I would actually recommend you to grab your coffee and sit here because this is going to be an amazing episode where you learn how to make money out of your dreams and how to turn things around for you. Hi, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much, Attika. I'm really excited to be here.
Likewise. So like I said to everybody, let's start with your journey. What made you create the Cosmopolitan Academy?
So Cosmopolitan Academy was a series of year over year. My vision, my dreams got bigger and bigger. When I first started, it was actually just with a little pink briefcase, and I took a lash course, and I couldn't even afford to get a space to actually do the services. So I was doing mobile. So Cosmopolitan Academy came from my first step, which was taking a lash course. That's where I started. But year over year, as I got more confident, grew more in business, my dream, my vision obviously expanded with me.
Amazing. And for people who don't know, the Academy is in Barrie. It's very famous among the beauty industry for a lot of people who are looking for certifications. And the best part is that I see that you guys offer online and in person both. Is that correct?
Yes, so our head office is in Barrie, Ontario. So we're out of Canada. However, we are very widely known now across North America. So exactly. We're across Canada at this point, in class and online, as well as the US.
That's perfect. And that kind of like breaks the barriers and then gives everybody a chance to experience and learn.
Yes.
So we're gonna start with the services. What certifications are the most popular ones nowadays, and what do you guys offer?
Oh gosh, so
I know, it's a huge list.
That's a big question. So in a nutshell, permanent makeup services are definitely the most in demand. The reason that they're most in demand is it makes people's lives easier.
Sure.
It hits identity, luxury service, as well as health and beauty. So it's a hybrid service for people. It checks off all the boxes in different areas.
Yeah.
And for our actual students, one thing that's overlooked a lot is to get into permanent makeup, incredibly low overhead with very high return. Mm-hmm. So from a business standpoint, to make $600 in an hour and only pay $8 in overhead, you can see the value in that.
I know, and I was actually going to hit on that because when I was going through all your services and certifications, I think that is a major barrier that a lot of students or people who do certifications have, because they take up courses, certifications, they invest a lot, and then the return is like, you're kind of like starting, and then it discourages people. And I'm sure you would have seen a lot of people in cases like that, right?
Absolutely. So to just hand over a piece of paper with no real business acumen, exactly. That's an injustice as a whole. And we really noticed that with a lot of our students. We've been 14 years now. So in the early stages, we didn't really notice that there was this gap. And I think the industry as a whole was overlooking this. But in the last 10 years, the last 5 years, very aggressively for our company, we're trying to bridge that gap. So that's where we started the Diamond Society, which is where we actually teach the women in the beauty industry after certification then how to scale a business, because we can give anybody a piece of paper, but if they don't know how to get people in the door to their business, it's just a piece of paper. And we found that ethically we couldn't continue to just give a certification without proper backing to turn that into a legacy for them and stability for their families.
Exactly, 100%. And that is one of the things that I truly love about the Academy and how you guys have evolved and bridged that gap, because that is a huge gap for a lot of people in every industry, I would say.
Yeah.
We have certifications, people have taken courses, people have done degrees, 100%. And then there is they don't know how to convert it into a business, right?
Exactly.
And then at that point you're just a master's or a PhD or whatever, but then at the end of the day you need money. To
turn it into a business.
Exactly.
Nobody takes these certifications just to be a skilled artist.
Exactly.
They want to be a skilled, paid artist.
100%.
And that was definitely overlooked in our industry. And you know what? We're really excited because we're finding that not enough academies are trying to bridge this gap yet.
Yes.
We're the only ones that we know that have taken it to such an extensive program after certification to ensure success. And our students are actually seeing about an 85% higher success rate in the beauty industry, pairing it with the coaching after.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, okay, so tell me, like, I'm going to go into a bit of the myths and stuff. So all the trends and the TikToks and all of that.
We got some crazy ones.
I know.
Yeah.
So tell me about, like, the BB glows and all of that, the trends, the TikToks. Is it actually as safe as it's said to be, or what do people need to look out for when they're actually looking into that?
So in a nutshell, to answer your question, yes, if done correctly, it is very safe and very, very effective. However, unfortunately, because this industry is not as regulated as it should be because of what we're working with, there's a lot of beauty professionals, and I say professional loosely, because they take a certification, but then they don't take the ethical standpoint of working on people's skin, and they're just, creating their own depths, or they're not going by the book, they're not following what they learned. And it's there for a reason. It's there to protect the integrity of people's skin, their scar tissue. There's so many different elements. So if it's done incorrectly, it can definitely be invasive and worked. But if you're with a skilled artist that is ethical, that is following all of what they've learned, there's no reason for it to be an unsafe. You're not in an unsafe environment if they're ethical. And so I always say to people who are shopping around, you can even call and ask, let's say microneedling, for example. Okay, that's something that we all know. Now there's different depths, and if we go too deep, naturally, we're going to actually create scar tissue that's irreversible on your face. So when you're calling and you say, what depth do you use on the face? If that artist doesn't know right away, they're not following the guidelines. It should be instilled in their mind. So you don't even need to know the depths. But if they don't know right away, that's not somebody you want to lay on their bed and have them work on your skin. So just little questions like that can actually, really quickly get you into the hands of a skilled professional that's going to take care of your best interest.
Again, and I wanted to hit on this topic because this is super important. Like, I know there is a price point and a budget and stuff, but like simple questions can actually help you narrow down to not being in a situation where you would not want to be, and primarily sometimes things that are irreversible, have some kind of damage that, whether it was an accident or a look over, it's not gonna go away, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So tell me, let's go over the success stories. So the success stories that you've had, which one is like your favorite, or something you would like to share? I know there are many.
Oh my gosh, I've got so many. There's 3 that stick out every single time I get asked this question. So we had one girl in the early days, and she took our lash course. And when she first started, she was actually walking to work every day. She couldn't afford a vehicle. So she was walking to work every day, and she was cleaning in hotel rooms. And she said even her shoes were coming apart, but she couldn't afford to buy new shoes fast enough. So she was actually that dire. She was in that position. And she used the last, I think it was like $800 at the time, to take an eyelash course. And she started just by supplementing her income. She didn't quit her job. She used it just to work around her regular hours, but then she started realizing how much she was making and how in demand the service was. And she's now at this point, within 2 years, not only did she quit her job, she drives an Audi, she's got a down payment on a house, like she is killing it.
Amazing.
And she literally started with shoes that weren't even fully intact. The glue was coming apart on her shoes, and she was walking to work. She could not even afford a vehicle, let alone a luxury vehicle. And that was all from, she still only does lashes. She doesn't do anything else, and she doesn't have an employee. She just loves to work with people. That's not part of her business plan, and that's totally okay, but she's making a living.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that's something we all want to hear. And then after the pandemic, I see more and more people wanting to have a way of earning that is, kind of goes around with their schedule and stuff. We all know,
We're busy.
I know we're busy. Corporates, but then, you don't want to be stuck with that. So, that sounds amazing. So tell me, with you, when you started, I'm sure, I know your personal story, lots of struggles and all of that. how would you get up every time? I'm sure there would have been downfalls and there would have been like
a ton.
I know, I'm sure. Because when people see you at the present, they're usually like, oh my God, she probably had it like that forever, which is
her dad paid her, started her company for her.
Exactly.
No, I didn't have that luxury. I grew up in poverty to the point of my mom would actually give up our apartments in the summer and we would camp in tents for the summer because it would only cost us $20 a day to be in a campground rather than $50 a day to have the apartment. And that was the difference between eating or not eating. That's how I grew up. My father was absent and still don't know him to this day. So I didn't just get handed, daddy's, investment and help out. A lot of people have that image. That's not my case. And I didn't have the luxury of going to Harvard. I didn't have the business acumen when I first started. I've had to reverse engineer all my own trials, errors, and, tributes and reverse engineer and see what worked, what didn't work. And now create system and processes that are rinse and repeat that I can teach to others.
Exactly. And that is what I love about you and the Academy as well, that you actually took back from all those experiences and you're actually giving it back to the people, because again, the gap is huge and nobody wants to invest like $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 and then sit on it and wait for a couple of years to be like, okay, when I'll hit that 5,000, then I'll start earning kind of fun.
100%. And that's why it was so important to me to start the Diamond Society, because I'm realizing I thought at the time I was a minority in this industry, that everybody was just, super successful and everybody had all this business acumen and they have all these resources and network that's massive that they can just tap into. And I'm realizing that is absolutely not the case. I was actually a majority of my students. They have the same story as me. They've been in bad relationships. They've grew up in poverty. They didn't have the business acumen. They may still not have the business acumen, but they're looking for guidance and they're open to it. And so I'm realizing that was something I thought I was very alone. I'm not alone. My story is very much what the average story in this industry starts out as, which is really actually incredible.
I know. And I would say for anybody who is actually looking or who wants to start, especially to my audience as well, if you ever thought that you would want to start, you have 500 or that's 800 or 200, whatever lying aside, there is no right or wrong time. You just start. And if you have a passion for it, it's going to grow. It's going to become something that you would love to do, and it's going to generate income for you as well. That's the whole point about it.
It's crazy. When I started, I was like, am I really getting paid just to make people feel wonderful? Like, this is incredible. Like, it's the most positive job you could ever have. But then when you take it from a job and turn it into an empire, that's where it gets really exciting.
I know,
yeah.
100%. Okay, so let's talk about the Diamond Society. Yes. So once somebody graduates or takes a certification from the Academy, are they automatically enrolled in the society? And what does the society do for them and how does it work? Tell me.
So the society is actually not just for our school. Because there's not enough academies offering this service, we take students, as long as you're in the beauty industry, that's our niche, that's what we teach, that's what we know. So it doesn't matter what school you went to, if you're struggling in the beauty industry to build a business, the Diamond Society is definitely where you want to start. And we actually start right from the basics because everybody's going to be at different spots in their journey when they come to the Diamond Society. So the first thing we do is a full company audit. Because there's 3 working areas that you need to be working in sync in order to succeed. Number 1, your sales. If I get you a bunch of people showing up at your door with ads, but you don't know how to convert them, you're still going to have a problem. Okay, so we have to look after your sales, we have to look after your marketing, and then we also have to look after your technology. We can funnel people, you can be the best closer in the world, but if they can't check out because you have a technology problem, again, you have a bottleneck. So those are things that a lot of people are like, oh, well, I have somebody doing my paid ads, but it's not working, because you need 3 things in sync in order to succeed online. And if all 3 of those are not working in synchronicity, you've got a problem. So we do do a full company audit to see where your bottlenecks are. And then from there, we go into business coaching, sales coaching, marketing coaching. And if you want to start your own ads, we'll even teach you how to do that. So there's a lot of different things that we're looking after, and it's all with different individuals. So we have a marketing expert that does the coaching for the marketing. We have a sales expert that looks after the sales coaching for the women in the society. And then myself, I look after the business coaching with the tiers that are involved in the business coaching. But everybody starts with the audit, and then we literally personalize where they need to go and how often to get to what their first goal is.
That's amazing. And I think that's a super, super needed for anybody who's in the business and who's trying, even for people who are trying to pivot. So there are a lot of things that are not working for you or something, and you need you need an opinion, you need an expert advice, you need somebody to show you sometimes that, hey, maybe you want to do it A, B, C like that.
Yeah.
So that would be something.
We get asked all the time. They're like, well, I'm in services, but I'm not in beauty services. Can I go to the Diamond Society? And I'm like, no, I'm not taking anybody's money unless I know I can make a difference. And yes, we can make a difference in any service technically, but our scripts that you get to copy in our back end, like in our school, our different sales acumen, things like it's the whole structure, the whole strategy is for the beauty industry very specifically. So
that sounds amazing. And then is it like they can do a subscription month to month, 6 months? So
we have 3 different tiers depending on where you're starting.
Okay.
So there's the DIY, which they get access to the school on a monthly basis and they can pay their monthly subscription.
Okay.
And then we go to a second tier where you're coaching and the school combined. And then we have the third where you're working one-on-one with myself. And that's for people who want to use our company as their business GPS, and they have the ability and the resources to just scale quickly.
Amazing. So I think anybody and everybody at whatever level, you just need to check out the website. We have all the details on the screen, the website, the social media handles, everything. But make sure you guys check it out because it's super important. I am super impressed by their work, and when I was reading about and all of that, I was like, oh my God, I probably need another side hustle. Like when you start off with the side, I'm like, okay, I need to look at this stuff and do something. This is so exciting. And like you said, because it's such a nice job. You're making people feel wonderful with the work that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So that's something. So tell me, what out of all the latest trending, I would say treatments, which one is your recommendation for lighter skin tones, darker, or how would you recommend people navigate through, just going by the trends? Like, oh, let's get this infusion, let's get that peel. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. There's so many different trends. And I think one thing that most people don't know is companies, even lasers. Let's just talk about lasers for a second, okay? So today they're talking about resurfacing the skin, and their verbiage will be something. They'll take that exact same treatment and they just remarket it with different words in a different avenue. Now it's for anti-aging. Last year it was for collagen production. And they're selling the exact same service over and over every 3 to 5 years. They're literally recycling the exact same treatment with new marketing. Yeah. So you've got to be very careful, number one. There's way too many services to, touch on anything, exactly. But permanent makeup, lashes, obviously that's my jam. That's where I excel for sure. And I'm an advocate. I literally wake up every day and my makeup's done. My eyeliner's tattooed, my lips are tattooed, my eyebrows are tattooed, my lashes are on. Like I roll out of bed and, people don't realize, I don't want them to know that I'm not a morning person, but I don't want it to look like that.
I know.
So,
for a lot of us, especially if you're, sorry, I'm just cutting you off, but this is exciting, especially if you're a mom or you have family and stuff. Oh my God. Yeah. Let's just not get into that. You barely have 5 minutes to get ready.
Exactly.
All of that, and you're like, oh my God.
But I don't want it to look like I only had 5 minutes. Yeah. My kids look great, but I would be like disheveled if I didn't already have everything done. So, just even those treatments for me, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, what your skin tone. Of course, there's some contraindications with your health. I won't get into that. The services are generally for everyone.
Makes sense. So basically, look into the permanent makeup part if you want to look just like you were just not out of bed 10 minutes back.
Yeah.
And that is super important, especially on weekends. Like, and I'm also not a very morning person, especially on weekends. I'm like, oh my god,
no,
let's not do that.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about the idea of having the academy in Barrie. So was it because you were based there, or did you see more? And I believe you have 2 or 3 different.
We have a few. Yeah.
Right?
So it started in Barrie because I was born and raised in Collingwood. I ended up in the city, and that's just where I started.
Wow.
And so when I was first doing services, I was in a small town. Just west of Barrie, and I noticed that all my clients were really more dominantly from the city. So I relocated. It just made sense for business. But since opening the actual academy, as opposed to just services, that we have Toronto, we have Vaughan, we have Edmonton, we have Leduc, we have Barrie as well, of course, and then in the US as well. So we have our head office there because that's where I live. That's where I want to raise my kids. I don't want to be in the GTA, the hustle and bustle. It's too much for me. I'm a small town girl for sure. So that's where the head office is, but that's not our only location.
Exactly. No. I wanted to touch upon that too. And since you mentioned, Collingwood is a beautiful town.
Yeah.
It's so gorgeous. So I am not much of a hustle and bustle person as well. So I love exploring these towns and stuff. And then I'm usually like I love when it's like quieter, nicer, the lakeshore, like this.
If you ever land yourself in Ontario, Blue Mountain, Collingwood, that's a place to see.
I know. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So let's get to the certifications with the academy.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to start off their career in the beauty industry, of course the lashes and that is the niche and that is your forte, I would say. But then how would you recommend them to narrow down what certification would they want to do? Is it just based on what you feel like you want to do, or?
Yeah, so there's a couple of factors. So when we have somebody calling in and they're just starting their search in an academy, that's the number one thing that we talk about is what drew you to the industry to begin with. Because some people are like, I got my brows done and I felt so good. I want to make somebody feel this good. They're going to be naturally drawn to the brows because they physically experience the transformation themselves. So first we want to find out, what drew you and why. And then we'll, talk about some other things. We've had girls show up and, they're on the phone and they're like, I want to do permanent, I want to do microblading. We're like, okay, are you okay with seeing a little bit of pinpoint bleeding? Oh, no. If I see blood, I'll pass right out. We're like, okay, this one's not for you, girl. This is not where we start with you. Let's talk about, maybe doing it with a machine or, still, in this permanent makeup, but maybe not as invasive as the blade. So we still work with every single student to find out, your passion, because naturally that's where you're going to excel. And then secondly, just a little bit of your background, your comfort level, and then we work on it from there. And everybody's different.
100%. So the idea I wanted to get from it for anybody who's actually, they don't even know what they want to do, but they know they want to do something. Mm-hmm. So they can 100% call and figure it out working with you guys. And I think that's a better way of doing it than just kind of like Googling it and figuring it,
Oh yeah, 100%. We have a training coordinator. She's phenomenal. And we always really encourage our students to speak to her first before making any choice, because that's her expertise and we don't know what we don't know in this industry. And when we're first starting, we're a little bit overwhelmed to begin with on all of the options that are available. Exactly. And you know what? We are the first to say if we're not a right fit for somebody. You're maybe drawn to something else that we don't offer. We're in the business of empowering women. We're in the business of helping women to grow, and we're not in the business of taking money if it's not going to give back in their life. So that we always say, talk to our training coordinator and she will help guide you. And if we're not a right fit, she'll be the first one to tell you.
Oh, that's amazing. And those are the few things, the fact, your journey and the few things about the academy that I just love, and I think that's so authentic and so nice to have, because there are so many other certifications and stuff, and of course it's overwhelming, and of course in this current time and with inflation and everything, and at any given point in time, nobody would want to give out some information or lose money or stuff like that. It doesn't feel good.
It's really sad. We have a lot of students take the same, so they've already got certified, let's say microblading. They've gotten certified in microblading, but they were so underwhelmed with the amount of support. They feel so incompetent in still doing it that there's no way they could take that certification and do anything with it. So then they pay to come to our school to retake the certification just to get the support, to get the unlimited instructor access. Every single student of ours has unlimited access to instructors. They can bring as many models into our classes as they want, free of charge after their first course. We would never ever charge somebody again to feel confident in the service that we just taught you to do. If you're not feeling 100%, we want you to come back. We don't want you working on the public until you feel 100%. And that's always included in every course of ours.
I think that's super important. And that's important as a morality part of the industry that you guys are working in.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me again, with regards to courses, durations, how do the durations vary with the certifications? Are there like 3 months, 6 months, a year, longer? What options do people have?
So all the courses are pretty fast. It is very standard in this industry, and that's why we make it such an emphasis that there's an open door policy. So just because you've done your model, you've gotten certified, if all went well, doesn't mean we've wiped our hands clean of you.
Wow.
Okay, so we have girls that come back and they're still wanting some extra hands-on work with our instructors a year after certification. We've had somebody who was like, you know what, something happened in her life and she was like, I just don't have time to practice. She had to step back. She called us 2 years later and said, I took your course 2 years ago. I didn't do anything with it. Can I take a refresher? Absolutely. Doors open, come in. So it is pretty quick as far as theory and all of that. You do it at your own pace. On average, it takes 2 weeks to finish for somebody, and then you have your practical, your hands-on, depending on which type of course you took. That's all different as well. But after you're certified, let's say it takes 1 month, start to finish. From the time you call us to the time that you're certified, you still have access to us indefinitely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think we can go on and talk about so many things. It's just amazing energy when I have empowered women with me, and then we can go on and on.
Yeah.
But of course, I would love to have you back again as well. But for now, I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. This is your camera. Talk about whatever your heart feels like. Talk about the academy or the empowerment, or tell people, anything you would want to say to them.
So I think the first thing that I would touch on is a myth that's so widely thought in this industry, and that's that you have to be incredibly artistic in order to start in the permanent makeup industry. All of our students, most of them don't have any artistic background. They start at zero, and by the end of the month, they're doing flawless realism brows. And that's one thing that people they're discouraged because they feel like, I'm not artistic. I couldn't do a full tattoo. So how could I do this? That is definitely a myth that's needs to be busted right away. Is you don't need any artistic background. You can start at zero and still be very successful in this industry. I can draw brows like an artist now, but when I started, I could barely draw a stick person. Okay, I was not artistic. As long as you can map and follow direction, you'll be able to map the lips, the brows, the eyeliner. And then as long as you can color inside the lines, you can be successful in this industry. That would be the number one thing that I would just, touch on, is that this industry is truly for anybody who's looking for stability. The other thing is how big this industry is. For example, luxury travel. We all think it's a massive industry. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just for luxury travel. And in the US in 2023, it was a $30 billion industry. So to put it into perspective, what the beauty industry, we do about 44 billion in that same year. So we're actually larger than luxury travel. And so people really minimize what we're doing here. They think, it's just a bunch of girls doing eyelashes. That's not it. Most of us are making more than surgeons. And I say that the successful ones, they're legit making more than surgeons, and they have a lot less overhead. They didn't take 10 years in school. They didn't have a massive debt load after they were done their certification, and they're still making such a handsome income. And that is like we're overlooked in that area. We're really undermined, except for those that tap into it. We see the power. We know what we can make in this industry. And so to take something and, take $1,000 and turn it into an empire, it's very powerful. And a lot of people don't know that this is actually a reality for a lot of people in this industry.
Oh, 100%. I think those were some very, very great takeaways, and I would love to chat with you further on, but time doesn't permit. But definitely we'll be having you again, and I look forward to seeing you more and more on TV and in the Academy too.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best for all of your future endeavors.